All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. And I wanted to go over with you about relocating to Gainesville, Florida. So, a lot of buyers, when they reach out to me and they're looking to move to Gainesville, Florida, it seems like a daunting task, and it really, really doesn't need to be. And I want to show you how they're looking and the problems that they're having so that you don't have those problems, and what I would recommend you do when you're looking to move to Florida. So, first things first is if you're here and you want to drop in your name and where you are from, please do so. And then I can definitely help you with that. Now, when we're looking at what should you be looking for when you are moving and where should you search? Now, most people like to search on Zillow. And Zillow is a fine place to search. I prefer realtor.com, and I'm going to show you why. Now, when you are looking at Zillow, you definitely want to go to, buy is what you're looking for. And I've already got mine pre-filled for Gainesville. And so you see that there are 500, they're showing 501 homes of 1,142. And that is overwhelming. So my recommendation would be you're looking for properties that are for sale, because you have for rent and sold. And we're going to get to why you want to look at sold properties as well. And then I would go over here to your filters. Now you see over here on your filters, you have the option of new construction, foreclosures, auctions, coming soon. I would remove anything that's coming soon. We really don't have that here in Gainesville, Florida. I would also remove auctions, foreclosures, and pre-foreclosures. Now, first of all, we don't have that many foreclosures. Many people who are moving here often are not looking for a fixer-upper. If you're an investor, you would probably be looking at foreclosures. But if you're moving here and you need a house that's ready to go, pre-foreclosures and foreclosures are not for you. Now, why would you want to remove pre-foreclosures? Pre-foreclosures are not foreclosures. Basically, what has happened is that homeowner is behind on their mortgage payments, and they have to be filed with the county. So they get a notice that says, hey, you are behind on your mortgage payments. If you don't catch up, we're going to have to take action. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to sell the house. So when a buyer calls me up and they say, hey, I see this house, it's pre-foreclosure, I don't know what that means, but I really, really like this house. I want to put an offer on that house and I want to schedule a time to see it. Well, that person is not actually selling their home. Yes, there's a risk that they're not going to make their payment, but usually what we find out is that individual will make their payment. Then they may not make their payment for a month or two, and then they make their payment again, but they're really never going to put their property on the market for sale or let their house be repossessed by the bank. So the last thing that I am going to do is walk up to that door and say, knock, knock, knock. Hey, by the way, I see that you're behind on your payments and you can't seem to be regular. Have you thought about selling your home, or, can we buy it from you? That never goes well. So not to be disappointed, I would remove pre-foreclosures from your search list. Now, unless you are looking for new construction, I would take new construction out. And then there is the owner posted, which is going to be your for sale by owner or the agent listed. I, of course, work with agent listed. It's not that I don't like for sale by owners, but I'm going to go and find out information that's easy for me to get to first. And if I can't find what my buyer is looking for in owner agent listed properties, then I will navigate to a for sale by owner. So now you see I'm really only looking at two things. I'm looking at I'm looking at agent listed and new construction. Let's see here. I'm not yet putting these other requirements in there. Now, when you're moving here, you know how many bedrooms you're going to need. You may say, I need 3, 4 would be nice, but I need 3. And so that is usually what people are looking for. So let's start with 3. And see, you don't have to do a range. It just says 3+. So you're going to be fine there. And then for bathrooms, you see how it says 1, 1.5, and 2. So we in Zillow don't have a 2.5 and a 3.5 If it's a 2.5, it usually pushes up to 3. So you want to be careful if you see something that's a 3-bathroom because it may actually be a 2.5. So we're going to say 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. If you want it to be an exact match, you can put exact match on here. And then home type. Now, most people know that they're looking for houses. You might be open to condos and you might be open to townhouses, and I will cover those later on in the video. But I would deselect all, and then I would just go with just houses. Now, if we're looking at just that for Gainesville, Florida, we haven't even put price in here. We now have 568 homes. That's a lot of homes to try to scrub through. But just so that you know, when we are looking at pricing for these homes and people are saying, hey, I want to know how much is it going to cost to live closer to the university? And that's why I'm leaving them all in here. When you look at this right here is the university. Okay, there's a lot of properties for sale. There's the university. There's the hospital. All right. This area, College Park, University Park, we also know it as Midtown. You can see there's not a lot of properties for sale right there. They do come up for sale, but there's just not a massive amount because it's a lot of student housing. So a lot of people already own the properties, or there's a lot of development. So there's a lot of rentals in that area. Now, when you're looking at this area, you see 545,000, 480, 500,000, 575. These homes are mostly older homes. There might be a one-off where there was a lot and somebody did build new construction, but that's really, really rare. What you're really going to see is a lot of older homes. And there's nothing wrong with an older home. You just need to be aware that usually what you're going to see is 8-foot ceilings. So if you're looking for something with much, much higher ceilings, you're really not going to see it here. And the one thing I do caution everybody on is the plumbing. This is where you really definitely want to look at the plumbing situation and find out if the pipes have been replaced. Now, to me, there's 2 types of pipes. There is the incoming water pipe. That one is not as expensive, but there's the outgoing waste pipe. That one is very expensive. And I speak from personal experience, having never done it before. When I bought a house that needed to be, I called it repiped and replumbed, and we had to do both. The bill was staggering. So I wouldn't want that for you unless you're prepared for that. So in this area also, like I was saying, there are a lot of student rentals. It is a mix. There are a lot of people who grew up in this area and the houses were handed down in their family. So you will see some families here and some older retired individuals, but you will see majority of them are students. So if you're looking for a place for your child and you're thinking, oh, they're going to go to school, we need a 4-bedroom house, 5 bedrooms is going to be fine. They're all going to live together because they want to be close to the university. Totally fine. But this is what you're going to be paying for that house. So if we just look at this house right here, this is what 575,000 gets you close to the university. We don't have a garage. Like I said, they're older homes. Usually we don't have a lot of photos, and that's because you need tenants' permission to photograph their personal belongings inside the home, and many of them don't like their personal belongings photographed. So many times we don't have interior photos, and I understand you may call us up and say, hey, I'd like to get interior photos. Without the tenant's permission, we're not allowed to take them. Now, it looks like they were able to get the tenant's permission for this, and sometimes what we'll try to do is we will try to take photos when it's what we call between turns and it's vacant, so you can get an idea of what you are going to get. Now, in tenant situation photos like this, I would tell you, ignore the mess. You're not going to get the property delivered to you in that way. It's not going to come with the frying pan on the stove. So I know you may be looking at it and you're like, ooh, it's so messy. I don't want that. See past it. And when I look at the property, I am seeing that, we've got gas. I'm seeing updated cabinetry. It looks like everything appears to be in good shape. in here. I'm looking at, okay, the laundry's inside the bathroom. That might be an issue if somebody's taking a shower and the other kids need to do their laundry, but it's not the end of the world. But this is what 575,000 gets you when you are that close to the university. So let's look at this one. It's 500,000. Yep. This is the $500,000 property in Gainesville, close to the university. And there's nothing wrong with it. We've got older windows, so you and I are going to be looking at different things usually, and I'll tell you more later about what I look for when I'm looking at photos. And so, great rental property in here, but 500,000 is not really the budget that many people that are moving to Gainesville have. If you've got it, I'm very, very happy for you. Um, this area over here still is where a lot of students do like to live because, you're right here next to the university. And so if you are coming for residency or you're coming for a teaching or professional position, where do you want to live? And I'm asking you that because a lot of people are looking at, um, I want to live in an area that when I go to sell the property, I will be able to sell it quickly. Or if I decide I want to rent the property, I will be able to get a good rental rate for it. And so when I'm helping you find properties, I absolutely keep that in mind. Unless you're telling me this is where you're going to bury me in this house, then I take into that many other considerations. So mostly what I hear is I want to be within 15 minutes of the University of Florida. Now, I know the area very well, so I know where those areas are. But since I know that you do not know where those areas are, my suggestion to you is this. Go to Google. Oh, go to Google Maps. All right. So here we've got UF Health, University of Florida. And if you're wanting to be within 15 minutes, I know that this area is a highly desirable area for many people who are looking to relocate to Florida, especially if you want to work at the university and you're telling me, I need to work at the university. My job requires that I am within 15 to 20 minutes response time so that when I get a call, I've got to be there inside of 20 minutes. So I know that this is going to be your area. So let's say this is where you are and you are thinking, all right, I want to drive to over here. So let me see if I can just put. So you can see that on average, based on the type of day, it's a little bit longer. It's only about a 7-mile drive, 7 miles, but it's anywhere between 19 to 20 minutes. And I always say this, reverse it. And if you need to be at work at, let's say, 8 a.m., you see how now it is a 35 to 40-minute drive? So my recommendation to you is because a lot of people are always very surprised by, it's only 7 miles. So how did it go from being a 10-minute, 15-minute drive to all of a sudden a 40-minute drive? Depends on when you're going. So I would put in there where your work is and then what time you're leaving work at the end of the day and what time you need to be at work based on the area that you want to be in. And then you've got different ways to get there. But let's say you were lucky enough and you didn't need to be at work until 10:30. It knocks off 10 minutes. Maybe you don't need to be there till 1, a little bit longer. Usually that's when school is letting out. So that's my suggestion. And if I take this and I say, okay, well, what about this area? This is a desirable area to live as well. It's also, well, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning. So it's about a 20-minute drive. Let's try 8. About, again, still 40 minutes because you're on that side of town. I know that this area, and I'll tell you where that's at. That's Oakmont. Same thing. So pretty much in this area, you are normally on average 15 to 20 minutes usually. But of course, if you're driving at peak times like anywhere else, it's going to about double your drive time in there. And so, I mean, that should be okay because if you are wanting to be really, really close over here, remember that's the older homes that we just talked about, and you're going to be paying a lot more for those homes just to be that close. So now the areas that I was talking to you about just now that were within 15, 20 minutes or 40, depending on the type of day. So you can see here in this area, 400, 400, 340, 355, 400. So you have an idea what the price range is in that area. And you know, okay, well, you know what, that is inside my budget. I will be open to looking in that area. We have an outlier here. That's probably a house with a pool inside of it. And I only know, oh, no, it doesn't even have a pool. It just has, it's one of the bigger houses. So that is what I would look for if I was trying to figure out my drive time, is I would go to Google and I would say, okay, here's my radius. Where do I want to be? Now, the other thing I look at is you were going to tell me what your price range is. And I know it's not fun, certainly not sexy. It's not what you want to do. Talk to a lender. Doesn't have to be my lender, could definitely be your lender. I'd prefer it be a Florida lender, preferably a local lender, because listen, I always joke with people, if it's a local lender and something happens, I can go kick in a door, but I can't go to like Wyoming and do anything about a lender that I can't reach. And you know, the people that are local have to look at us every single day and they want to make sure that they do a good job for us. But get a lender, find out what you can qualify for, because many sellers, and put yourself in their shoes, many sellers will not allow a showing for a property if they don't know that you're pre-approved. And the reason is because they're busy. They want to clean their house. They got to do something with Fluffy and Fido and their guests or their kids that are there. And they only want to be disrupted so many times a week for people that are actually serious about buying a property. And if you get pre-approved and you go through that pain of having to submit all of your documents, they know that you're serious. And if you're serious, then they're going to make the time and drop everything to get you into the house. But if you're not serious, or you say you are, but you're not willing to do the work, then they're not either to get their house ready for you. And they're like, well, you know, catch me next time. So that's not everybody, but it's usually the house that's most important to you. And it's the house that's probably going to go very, very quickly, that knows, you know what, I don't have to open my door 50 times in a week. I'm going to wait for the 5 people that are pre-qualified. So I say get pre-qualified. Nothing is more frustrating than shopping in a price range to find out that you can't afford it, or to waste your time and shop in a price range when you could have gone $50,000 more. I was just helping a buyer and we were shopping in one price point, and they could have gone higher. They didn't want to, which I respect and understand. And they found out that in the price point, that did not meet their caliber of home. So they flew in for a weekend. We spent a lot of time together, didn't find anything that they really, really wanted. And now we're spending, you know, time again, trying to find more of what they're looking for, but they're not here. So get pre-approved so you know exactly what you're looking for. And like I said, it doesn't have to be through my lender. So let's say you want to get a price range that is a very popular price range. And a very popular price range, and is very affordable for a lot of people in Gainesville, is between 350 and I'm going to go narrow, let's just say 450. I mean, that's a pretty big price range. If you're approved at 350, you're not going to just suddenly jump to 450. So when we look at 350 to 450, we now drop to 168 homes. It's still a lot of homes. It really, really is a lot of homes. And you want to start narrowing down, like, is a garage important to you? Is a pool important to you? Are you okay with a pool community? So once we've got your price range narrowed down and we kind of know like where you need to be, then we can see that there's a lot of homes in this area, but there's not a lot of homes in that price range in here. And as we push out, we get, we get more homes, but the further away you are, the lower the price is going to be. The closer you are, usually the older the home is going to be and the more expensive the home is going to be. Now, when we are looking at homes, I know that you're looking at the homes and you might be going, well, that's a very, very pretty home. And it is, but let's look at things that I look for inside the home so that you don't end up having any of these problems. All right. I am randomly picking these homes, okay? There's no rhyme or reason to them. If you have a house that you're specifically looking at and you want to go through it, just drop it in the comments and we will look at that house together. So when I'm looking at this home, immediately what I'm seeing is I'm seeing some overgrown shrubbery. Just could have been a day that the photos were done and the yard wasn't taken care of. But I might be thinking in my head, this is your photo this is the first thing that people see. If you're not going to do nice landscaping, what are you not taking care of inside? That's a lot of things that I hear from my buyers as well, is you wouldn't even make the front yard look good. So when I come in here, basic white looks good. I'm looking at the floors. I'm seeing the fireplace. I look at the windows because I want to see if these windows are newer or if these are older windows. I'm also looking at the ceiling to see if there's any stains or any watermarks on the ceiling because I'm worried that there might be a roof leak. I see that there's a floor outlet in here. Doesn't mean anything, doesn't mean that you need it, but that did cost money. The windows I can tell they're not old windows. They probably are original to the house. So here in the kitchen, I see that we don't have a microwave above the range. It's not a bad thing, but if you go to resell this house or you yourself say, wow, I'd really like to have a microwave, if you put it on the counter, it's going to take up counter space. You can put it up here, but that just means it's going to be a slightly extra cost to you plus installation on there. Again, not the end of the world, but just something you want to consider because you're going to go sell your house. Now, when this was built, the TVs did fit in that spot. Most of the TVs don't fit in that spot now. So your artwork would be there, but that means that you're going to need to consider one of these other walls if you have a very, very large TV, which is going to change the layout of your furniture for that room. I can also tell that these are stock cabinetry. It's not bad. And the way this sink sits here, I know that this is a Formica countertop. Not bad, but I also know in this area that most of the kitchens have upgraded cabinetry and they have solid surface countertops, whether that be granite or another surface. French doors coming out here and carpet in the bedroom. The jacuzzi tubs were back, were all the rage back in the day. So the carpet looks good. I look at bathrooms. So bathrooms, when you are looking at a bathroom, you want to look at this lower section here on the tile, and you want to see that the tile matches, because if it doesn't, they probably had some sort of plumbing issue in the past, and then you don't know if they did it properly to make sure that they cleaned everything out and dried it, or if they just slapped the tile back up there and you just don't know what's growing back there. So I always look for the tile in this area. I look for chips, I look for cracks, and I look to make sure that it is the same tile. They've got a nice screen porch in here. So this house is a little bit easier because it's a newer house, but let's look at maybe an older home. Maybe we'll need to pick out one of the older homes closer to the university. Okay. This is closer to the University of Florida. First thing I'm seeing here is that it's a gravel driveway. Most people are going to want a solid surface driveway. Um, this isn't bad, but if you've got a stroller or you've got somebody with some mobility issues, that could be difficult to walk on in the future. You know, we've got a one-car garage, and I'm trying to decide if trying to figure out if the windows are newer or not. I mean, I'm sure they function, but if it's something you decide to replace later, they can get expensive. Other thing I look for here is if you're a seller and you got to sell a house to move here, this area, I recommend you pull the rugs up because as a buyer, I'm not going to get to keep your rug, nor do I want it, but I want to see the floor. And if your rug is there, it does nothing for me. I need to see the floor. So when I'm looking at the floor, I'm looking to see what the condition of the floor is. I'm looking at there's two different types of flooring in here, which is not an issue. But when you go to sell it, if you have a lot of different flooring, then people may not like the house. They'll feel that it's disjointed and you may end up having to redo flooring in the future. And that can end up costing a lot of money. Remember I said that close to the university, we had the 8-foot ceilings. You do have that here. Now, these are not old windows, okay? Because old windows would not look like this. So these are not old windows. And I can tell from the kitchen, since this is an older house, this is not the way kitchens were. So they did update the kitchen here. So that's great. So this house has gone through some updates. Uh, Kitchen looks great. Looks like they maximized the amount of space that they had in here. So I want to go back and look at how much this house is going to cost because it's not going to be low price. Yeah, so we still got solid floors throughout, and then we've got the tile in the bathroom. So this house has been updated. And that's great, but you're going to pay for that, which is not a bad thing if you are moving here and you've got to start your job and you do not have time to take on a project. And they redid the bathroom, so we don't have to worry about anything there. $380,000 for 1,600 square feet. Okay. Now, one of the things that I know come up is, and I want to address this because I know this usually comes up. Crime, schools, families, age, and sex. So what ends up happening here is I know that we're all concerned about safety. I am too. And a lot of people will ask and say, hey, what are the crime rates? Or is it a safe area? And we're not allowed to answer that. And I say we, as real estate professionals, are legally not allowed to answer these questions because it is a fair housing violation. So no matter how well-intentioned it is, we're not allowed to have a thought or an opinion on there. But what we are allowed to do is point you in the right direction where you can gather that information, because crime is going to be different for everybody. If you grew up in an area where there was gunshots every single day, that may be normal for you, and that's actually how you fall asleep. If you're a drug addict and you're looking to score, you might be looking for an area that's like that. So you want to go and look at the crime and find out what is the type of crime, because crime does exist everywhere. There's no place that doesn't have crime. And so you want to look at the kind of crime that is in there, and you want to say, okay, I am or am not comfortable with that. So, you know, maybe you are okay with drug dealings in the area. You might be okay with, guns or violent crime. You might not be okay with it. There might be petty theft in there. Might only have happened one time in the last 10 years. So you've got to figure out what that is for you and if you're going to be comfortable with that. And then the next thing is that schools. The schools are changing because Gainesville is growing so fast. So whatever it is that you're going to see in the system. So let's say we look at this house right here. And let me just grab this one. When you got to look at this house right here and you're getting your information on the property, I would always double check the community fees because that is what the seller has given us, and the seller may or may not be up to speed on the community fees. You hope that they are, but I would always double check that in what the rules and regulations are there as well. Trying to find the schools. Your real estate agent should be able to give you the information on what the school zones are so you can contact them directly and find out what school you are zoned for, the school's rating, and if there is a proposed change that's going to be coming forward and that you may not be going to that school next year, or what would you need to do if you want to stay in that school zone. So contact your real estate agent to get the school information, or just search for the county, the school board of that particular county. The next thing is we get asked the two questions. I'm looking for an area with a lot of young kids. I'm looking for an area that has a lot of people my age. I'm looking for an area that has people of my culture. I'm looking for an area that's close to this type of church. I can't answer that. And you know, well, you may not know me to know my humor. Let me be honest. I don't know what the age of the children are in all the communities, because I think if I actually knew that, that's going to be a little bit creepy. And people are constantly moving every single day. So if, I know the kids in this one area, that could change 30 days later because there's going to be a lot of turnover. So my recommendation to you is, first of all, don't be creepy. But second of all, you can go to that area and find out when the buses run and hang out at the bus stop talking to the parents and get to know the parents. Those people are going to tell you everything. They're going to share all the stuff with you that I cannot share. Now, remember that there are going to be a lot of kids that may not ride the bus, or they might be in private school, so you won't actually be getting everybody in that area. The other thing is that if you want to partake in an HOA in a certain area, I know people either love or hate HOAs. So if you contact the board of the HOA, they will share a lot of information with you as well. They know everything that's going on. And then you can get a sense of, are you going to be in an area that the board is friendly, or are they going to be very like by the book and you're just not going to enjoy the area? So I would recommend that you contact the HOA board and you contact the school board and you visit the neighborhood when kids are getting on the bus or getting off the bus, so that you can talk to the parents in that area, because they can tell you everything that we cannot tell you. And again, it's not that we don't want to tell you, it's that we're legally not allowed to tell you, but we can give you the advice on where to go. Now, speaking of giving you information, when you are going through this listing, in photos on what you should be looking for, I would love for you to know how to read the description, because many of us are very good at writing descriptions. When you're looking at a description, you want to look for words that there have been updates, especially for an older home. If a seller has done updates to their home, they want to showcase it, especially if it's older. So if you're not seeing in an older home that there's a new roof, probably wasn't done. Or if they haven't done the windows, or they haven't upgraded the water heater or the plumbing, you will not see it here. So any updates that they did do, they will put it in here because they want to showcase all the things that you're not going to be able to see in the photos. This one's offering a concession in there. And let's see. This house was built in 1958. So automatically you're hoping that it's had some updates to the house. I'm looking for the words, updates. It just says new roof, HVAC, and water heater. I would want to know when, because it didn't say newer, it didn't say new, it didn't say what year. So they could be entirely different years. I saw a description once that somebody said that they had a newer roof. That roof was 10 years old. Now, to them, it was a newer roof because it was not 30 years old. So you want to make sure you know what the age of these items are. One, because you might need to replace them. Two, you need to get insurance. And if they don't meet the insurance requirement, it's either going to be expensive insurance if you can find insurance at all. So when you are reading these descriptions, when you see the words like cozy, that means small. When you say you can envision living here after some updates, that means there's going to need to be some updates in there. Um, so look at the kind of words that you're seeing in here and then ask your agent, kind of like, what do we think that is for code on there? Now, the next thing that you're looking at in here is it's been on the market for 143 days. Okay, that's a long time to be on here. So the question is why? I mean, I'd want to know why it has been on there. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's been on there 143 days and that the person is willing to take half. Those investors that are out there doing that, stop. They're not going to take half. They're going to do a systematic price reduction on there. So let's figure out why it might be on here for this long. I'm just going to go through the facts information on there. It's not a massive home. It's less than 2,000 square feet, but the livable area, the heated and cooled, that is small. Less than 1,500 square feet. Most people are looking for no less than 1,600 square feet, preferably around 1,900 will give them a bigger bedroom, possibly 2 living rooms in there. So this is a smaller home. The lot is what you're paying for. You're paying for being in the middle of Gainesville, and you're paying for the lot being 1.35 acres, which is a large lot here. And parking, you got one space. You got a 1-car garage. So it's on septic, well and septic as well. So it's not bad, but not everybody is saying, hey, I can't wait for you to put me on well and septic and give me a 1-car garage in the middle of Gainesville. Some people do want land and they will pay for the land, but other people just want the proximity and they don't want the land because they don't want the upkeep. So what we're seeing here is the house was listed. It's gone on and off. So we had it listed for sale almost a year ago, coming up on a year in July for $439, and then they went and okay, $301. That is a huge price per square foot. Just so you know, price change dropped to $419. 20, 30 days, 40 days later, then they took it off. They might have rented it, but I don't think so. Then they put it back on in November for $417. January, they took a price change to just underneath 400,000. Here we are, middle of April, and they haven't done a price change on here. So when I look at this and you see what the houses are going for, 327, 239, 381, and then this house is listed for 399. Huh. All right. So this house, yes, it looks stunning, but please do not be fooled. This house has been virtually staged, and it has to list in the description that it has been virtually staged. So don't fall into the trap of looking at this house and going, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. Well, yes, when you put in fake furniture in here, they're required to have a vacant photo of the property as well so that you can see this is what the space actually looks like. And then this is what it looks like. You don't know if this is to scale. So that may look great, but we don't know how big that furniture is and if it's actually going to fit in there. So it gives you ideas, but that don't rely on this. I mean, it looks absolutely gorgeous. So you're asking yourself, why hasn't it sold? I just happen to know the area, so I do know why. But you want to drive by the properties. So when you're looking at your properties that you're interested in, and you say, you know what, I do like this area. There's a lot of homes in here. Let's go and check that area out. My recommendation to you is look on Zillow Maps. What we're seeing is just this front photo. What you don't see is the houses next door and what's behind it. So if you go to like Google Earth or Google Maps, you can get, maybe it's an older photo, but you can still get an idea of what your neighbor is looking like. And that's not to say, it's good or bad, but I have many people that see a house and they think, oh, I love this house. And then they see modular homes or mobile homes next to it, or homes that are in disrepair. And they didn't realize that this one home was built on a vacant lot in an area that was not keeping up with the caliber of that home. And then they're very surprised. So don't just look at the home, look at the map and look at what you see from the surrounding area. Now, if you happen to be in town and you're getting to know the area, I would drive the community and find out, do you like the feel of the community? What we cannot see from this photo is we can't see what the streets are. We can't see what the sidewalks are like. We can't see what the layout of the community is. And if the roads are really, really wide and there's cars are parked in their garages, or if the roads are very narrow, there's not enough parking in front of the house, and that everybody's parked on the street and you can barely get your car by. We can't see from this photo if there's travel trailers or boats that are parked on the street or in the back area. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but if that's not what you want, you might be surprised when you get there. So I always recommend being able to drive by and check out the neighborhood. So a lot of this, like I said, you can do before you even get here. So just recapping it, you go online and you find out where you're going to work, and then you look at the drive time to just various areas so you know where you need to draw your bubble, your radius of like, I'm going to shop inside this area because I know how much it's going to take me to get to work. And then we can see the prices in that area and know if I'm going to be inside of this area, this is what I'm going to expect to pay. And then if you're like, okay, I don't want to pay $1 million, let me look for the houses that are 350, and you look for those homes, then you can see the kind of home that you're going to get for that $350,000. And if you're not happy with that, you'll need to make a choice that, you're going to change your standards, or you may need to open up your search area and go a little bit further out, or maybe not have 3 bedrooms and have 2 bedrooms, but you're going to have to make some changes. And that's how I know when somebody calls me up and they say, I want a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, and I want it to be close to University of Florida, and I want it to be updated for 200,000. That doesn't exist. I want to win the lottery too, but that hasn't happened. That doesn't exist. So this is how you can get to know, like, this is how we find out really what's going on in the area. And if you're looking at certain price points, what are you looking at in those price points? And so this area is also an area that a lot of people desire to live in, and this area as well. So this area over here is Oakmont. It is one of the more desirable areas, and it's desirable because most of the homes are newer in this area. But as you can see, for newer homes, there's not a lot of them because I put in there the search criteria was 350 to 450. So when we're looking at that, we don't get a huge number of homes. There are a lot of homes for sale in this area, but many of them are over $1 million. So if we're looking at this, we've only got like 3 homes inside this area. And they are pretty homes. Now, this area is still being built out by the builder. So you would be, if you needed to sell, you would be selling against the builder on these properties. And that's another thing to consider. If you're going to go into a home that has new construction and that developer has plans that they're going to continue building out for the next 10 years in that community, and you are going to be selling in 5 years, you are going to be selling against the builder. And the builder has great incentives, like they give money for closing costs. They give point buy down sometimes. They give other monies to buy a washer and dryer or a refrigerator. They have the latest trends and the latest colors of what's going on. And so people will walk into your home and they will see, okay, this is nice. And then they will walk into the builder's model and they will say, you can get all of that house, but in your colors, brand new, with all these warranties. And those are great when you're buying, and it's absolutely wonderful because it just gives you such great peace of mind. But you want to consider, if you are going to sell, will you be selling against the builder? Or if you want to rent, what are the rental rates going to be in that area? And can you at least cover your mortgage? Or maybe you know that you won't cover your mortgage and you're okay with that, but you want to be able to make those decisions going forward. Now, to narrow this down just a little bit more so that we don't have such an overwhelming number, I'm going to take out new construction. I'm going to add in here that just looking for the just looking for the garages. I'm not finding the garages right away. That's the home type. Price range. So it's got to be in here. And you can put in there if you want an HOA or not. You saw that right there. One of the things I definitely recommend you take out is the pending and under contract. A lot of people will forget to uncheck that box, and then you will send me photos and listings of properties that are not available for sale, which is followed up with the question, well, it may not go through. That is true. You're right. That sale might fall apart, but we don't normally see that happening. When it does happen, here's what I normally see as a scenario. Let's say the house goes under contract for 400,000 and you did not get the house and you're saying, "Okay, well I want to be a backup offer." I will tell you a backup offer, the seller is not going to accept a backup offer at 390 if the house is going underneath contract for 400. They will accept the backup offer at over 400,000. And here is why. They would rather negotiate with the person that they've already got and give up $10,000 to keep that deal going forward to closing instead of having to start all over again with a new buyer at a lower price point and then probably have to give up more money because of the issues that came up in that other inspection. So if you usually want to be a backup offer, my recommendation is you're going to be offering greater than what the current offer is to have that seller be incentivized to walk away and not try to work it out with that current buyer that's on the hook right now. Could be wrong. We can always try different things. There's no problem with that. So let me just make sure we don't have any questions over here. Okay. All right. Look for photos. Flood. Okay. Flood insurance. Flood information. You definitely want to look at the properties and find out if there is a need for flood. Let me find what property that was by the water. Let's pick this house here. I don't know if this is in a flood zone or not, but when you are going through here and you're seeing single family residence built in 2000, I don't listen to the Zillow estimate. I mean, if you went to 5 different websites, you would get 5 different prices on there. And I will tell you, Zillow has never walked into this house and looked at this house and the features and benefits that it had or the wear and tear, and then walked into the 3 other homes that have been sold or listed for sale to get a true comparison. They're going to take a range and put it into an algorithm and come up with a number. So I don't give Zillow a whole lot of thought. And if you came into this person and said, well, Zillow said your house is only worth 382 and you're not doing the other things I'm telling you, the seller is probably not going to want to move forward with accepting an offer from you. So, oh, this is brand new, only 1 day on Zillow. And okay, we have the 2-car parking spaces. Before we get to the flood, this gives you an idea of what the houses have sold for or their value in there to give you an idea of if this house is in line or not. These are under contract for 2380. It'd be interesting if we had more time to look and see why there's such a difference between those two in the prices. Your school zones are there. All right, I got to figure out where they put the flood ratings. So every place in the state of Florida is zoned for flood. There is not a single place that's not zoned for flood. So don't say that it's not in a flood zone because we all have flood zones. What it is, oh, there it is. This is a flood zone X, which means it's a minimal risk. So you are looking for flood zones that are flood zone X. If you are a flood zone A or something like that, that means that if you have a mortgage, your mortgage provider is going to require that if any part of the house, even if it's just a corner, is in a flood zone, you're going to be required to carry flood insurance. You can't go based off of what the current owner tells you, because when they got the house, it may not have been in a flood zone, but that flood zone may have changed over time and it could be in a flood zone now. They just may not know about it. So for example, one of the houses I bought, when I bought it, the flood zone is in our yard. It's not at our house, it's in our yard. And I know it's a matter of years before they change the flood zone maps enough that my house will eventually be in the flood zone. I'm hoping I have my house paid off by then so that I don't have to buy it on the mortgage, but you want to be aware of that because it's going to increase your cost. So if you set a budget for yourself and then you find out you're in a flood zone and it's going to increase your insurance $200, $300, $400 a month, that may put you out of being able to qualify for that policy. I mean, not that home as far as your mortgage goes. So definitely look for the flood maps, but don't go based on what the owner told you. And you can just go basically look up, floodmaps.com and find out where the flood maps, where you are in relation to the flood maps. You can also do that for sinkholes. They don't have it listed in here, but if you're in an area where you think there might be a lot of sinkhole activity, you can see if there's sinkhole activity close to that house. Doesn't mean that your house will fall into a sinkhole. It just says if there's been sinkhole activity in that area. Now, to cover a couple of the neighborhoods, University of Florida, like I was saying, the area over here, these are easily $4 or $5 million. I got to take out the price just so we can see. I'm sorry. So you can see the prices over close to the university. We've got some $1 million homes. I'd like to see. So you're paying for the location, you're paying for the house. I mean, it's pretty. Great area if you buy in here. Great rental potential because a lot of students want to be in here. Also good resale value. A lot of parents who are looking to purchase for their kids going to college will also want to buy in this area. So it's a great area to buy. It doesn't mean you're always going to get a good deal. So be careful for the people who are trying to recoup their cost and they may not be pricing the property, in line with the market. So I try not to fall in love with the house and end up overpaying for something. Now, another area that people ask about is this Duck Pond area. Old Gainesville, historic homes, really beautiful, a lot of two-story. Now, love the Duck Pond, love all the character. My word of advice to you is this. These are older homes, so it goes back to making sure that you've got the updates. Did they get the plumbing done? Is the electrical done? This is where you need to worry about lead-based paint and asbestos. So if that is a concern for you, you are going to want to get those tests done because these homes are much older. But there is a lot of character here. It being an older home is not where you're going to find a lot of sidewalks. You may find some sidewalks on some main streets, but you're not going to see sidewalks every single where that you are going. It is close to our downtown area, so you can walk downtown and enjoy the downtown area. Um, when we talk school zones, the school zones that are usually in demand are further out to the west. So if you're looking at a resaleability, you do have a pool of people that do want to be in this area, but some of them are not. Many of them are more looking at school zones, and this area may not lend itself to the school zone rating that they might be looking for. So you will sell it. You're just going to maybe have a little bit longer on the market, but might not, because there's usually not a lot of demand in this area. I mean, I'm sorry, there's not a lot of inventory in this area leading to demand, but character, a lot of character close to downtown. Oh yeah, and the homes prices, sorry. 450, 829, 665. Let's see what 665 gets you. Okay. Floors look great. This house has been updated. Again, you don't go by the pictures. A lot of people will, update the cosmetics, but then they didn't update, the things on the 4-point. So another area that people like to know about is Suburban Heights right here. It's not really the center of Gainesville, but as far as getting around, this is Suburban Heights. This is your university over here. And then we've got the whole west. So Suburban Heights is a great area. It's also older homes. They were built about the 1970s. So you're going to have a whole mix of homes that have been updated, some that haven't been updated. But we have a lot of the financial corridor, if you will, are right in here. So it's conveniently located between North Florida, University of Florida, financial district over here. So it is a great, great area. Good turnover for people that are wanting to live here for a few years. And then many of the homes here you can do some updating to, and then do well getting your money back on that. The other areas that many doctor professionals that like to be in is this whole area here, the whole Longleaf, Mentone, Hale Plantation, Eloise Gardens, Oakmont. It's just a very, very large, desirable area, mostly because of its proximity to the University of Florida and Shands Shands Hospital. Another area that is very, very popular, this is town of Tioga. I have a lot of doctors that want to be there that don't have to have that 20-minute time requirement. Now, in the town of Tioga, homes in here, for the most part, start at $500,000. So if you want to be in this area, I mean, there's a one-off right here, but really $500,000 is going to be your starting point in this area. What makes it really fantastic is they are adorable walkability. You have this whole area of shops, fitness centers, dining. A lot of people will just jump in their golf cart and ride up here. It's absolutely fantastic. And then you've got the growing area here with your grocery store. There are more restaurants being developed out here. We've got some new construction that happened in the last 10 years, plus still new construction here. So it's not, Gainesville, it's still Alachua County, but it's removed. And so it is a great area. It's a desirable area that people would like to be in. And then another, let me see if I covered all the areas. Oh, another area that people like is they like, I don't know where that went. So this area right here, we have Ellis Park, South Point, Broadmoor. You can see that there are a lot of homes that are for sale in here. It's about a 25-minute drive. You've got access to two parts of the interstate that you can quickly get on. We've got some schools that are right here, so people who want to be within walking distance to an elementary school, very, very easy access. Many of the homes in these areas are built in like the 1990s or the 2000s, so you're still getting an older home. You're not really worrying about your plumbing at this point. You can see the price point is in a good price point, you know, 385, 400. Then you go into Broadmoor and you've got, you know, your 400s. Sure, you can bump up into 500,000. This is an outlier at 300. But you know, it's the price point is not 500,000 and up like you would see in Tioga. But it's a good area that many people do want to live, and it's got good ability to resell in those areas. If you are looking for a higher price point, then you might be looking into Wilds Plantation and Estate of Wilds Plantation. We don't have a whole lot for sale right now. Let's see what this one is. This is Wilds Plantation. So Wilds Plantation was built first. Estate of Wilds Plantation was built afterwards. You're going to see a higher price point for Estate of Wilds Plantation. Very, very large lots, custom homes, absolutely stunning. Many of the people that I work with in this area, they are professionals. They are a doctor or two doctors that are there, University of Florida. They're sometimes in some sort of finance or own their own company, but you see the kind of caliber of a home. Most of the homes in like Estate of Wilds Plantation are $1.3 to $2 million in this area. You can get that same price point in town of Tioga as well. A little bit smaller of a lot in town of Tioga, but you're going to be able to drive that golf cart, you know, up into the shopping center area, which you're really not going to do here in Wilds Plantation. But your trade-off is that you wanted a larger lot with more exclusivity. That's what your trade-off there is going to be. So, all right. Are there any questions that I might have missed? I'm looking through my notes to make sure if there are any subdivisions. Real quickly on rent, if you're looking for a property to rent, I always recommend a property that is at least a 2-2 or a 3-2. I work in property management, and I will tell you, I don't have tenants coming to me going, I love a 1 bathroom, because if that bathroom gets clogged up or somebody's in it and someone else has really got to go, it kind of causes a problem. So I would say if you are looking for a property that you're going to purchase, that you're thinking about renting later, make sure there's at least 2 bathrooms. At the very least, do 1.5, but preferably 2. And 3 bedrooms are usually what we see. We're seeing some people want to go to 4 bedrooms, and that is because of affordability. A lot of people are wanting to come together and rent and put more people into a space because it's affordable. Rental rates in Gainesville on average for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1 or 2 car garage are around $1,800 on the low side. Now, we normally see that they're more like $2,200. If you get into some of these newer homes that we're seeing around $450, those homes are easily renting for around $2,500. We don't have a huge demand, what we call them executive homes. There is a demand for executive homes, but there's not obviously as many. So when you're getting into executive homes, I count that as something over $3,000. It doesn't mean it's going to have a pool. It's just normally at a higher price point than most people are looking for. They are looking for nicer things. They're either looking for a pool or a pool community. They want two-car garages. They want, the house to be updated and to feel like they don't have to come in and need to remodel anything. It doesn't mean that you can't rent an older home that needs some of that, but you're not going to get $3,000, $3,500 on there. We have seen a hit in the rental market in this last year where there's so much demand around the University of Florida. There's so much new construction that has been built for the students that they have moved into the new construction, meaning that everybody else from the outer areas are coming in. So there's a lot of vacancy in the outer areas. And when you have that much vacancy, then you're going to have a lower price on your rental rate. How do you get a renter into your property at a higher price point? You're going to need to offer things like allowing pets, so that pets still aren't welcomed in many places. So if you are a place that does allow pets and you have a fenced yard for the pet, then you are going to be a more desirable property than the other places that aren't going to allow it. So if you are looking at renting, that's something to consider. I wouldn't consider renting a property out lightly because it receives so much wear and tear. If you're going to go down the path of renting, I would say plan to do this for a good 5+ years, because it's not going to be worth it to do it for a year. Sure, you might cover your mortgage for that year, but by the time you have to repaint it and take care of anything that the tenant did, you're most likely going to be at a loss on there. So, and nobody really wants to be an accidental landlord, is what I call it. You think you're going to be able to do it, but being a landlord is not fun, and a lot of people don't enjoy it. I do it, but sometimes I think I've signed up for the crazy, and I wonder about it sometimes. So, looks like I don't have any additional questions. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope to get to see you next time. And if you do have questions, just text me, email, call me. I am absolutely happy to help. You guys have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.